guys, welcome to today's video. In this video we're going to be doing a 110 Greater Rift with a Whirlwind Barbarian. We'll go through the gear that we're using for the Rift, and we'll go through some skills and the Can Ice Cube as well, just so you guys know what we're using. So the first thing with our gear is that we're using the 6 set of the Wastes set, which increases, the 2 set increases the damage per second of our Rend by 500%, and it increases the duration of our Rend to 15 seconds. Our 4 set is during Whirlwind, and for 3 seconds after, you gain 50% damage reduction, and your applied Rend deals triple damage. And our 6 set is also Whirlwind gains the effect of Dust Devil's Rune, and all Whirlwind and Rend damage is increased by 10,000%. On our neck piece, we're using a Flavor of Time, which doubles the effects of pylons. They last twice as long. In our braces, we're using a Mortix brace to give Wrath of the Berserker every rune. In our belt, we're using a Lamentation, which allows Rend to stack up to 2 times and deal up to 150% increased damage. In our rings, we're using a Focus and Restraint set. The 2 set allows us to, whenever we hit with a resource generating attack or a primary skill, we deal 50% increased damage for 5 seconds. And when you hit with a resource spending attack, you deal 50% increased damage for 5 seconds, which we're constantly doing throughout this rift. In our weapons, we're using a Little Rogue and the Slanderer set. The 2 set for the set bonus for using these weapons is every time you spend a primary resource, you gain 6% increased attack speed, damage and armor for 5 seconds, and that stacks up to 5 times. Because we're constantly whirlwinding, that's always active. Into the skills. On our main click, we're using Ground Stomp with Wrenching Smash, which basically gives us a bit of a vacuum. It pulls enemies in from 24 yards out and pulls them all into us and stuns them for 4 seconds. And that helps us trigger the Focus and the Restraint. It also triggers our Band of Might, which is in our Q, and that gives us a massive amount of damage reduction. On our right click, we're using Whirlwind with the Wind Shear rune, which gives us 1 fury for every enemy struck, and changes our Whirlwind damage to lightning. For our first skill, we're using Wrath of the Berserker with Insanity, which increases our crit hit chance, our attack speed, dodge chance, and movement speed, and it also gives us 50% increased damage. On our second skill, we're using Warcry with Veteran's Warning, which increases our armor and all our armor and our allies' armor by 20% for 2 minutes, and it also increases our dodge chance by 30%. On our third skill, we're using Battle Rage with Swords to the Plowshares, which increases our damage by 10% and our crit hit chance by 3%, and our crit hits also heal us and our pets for up to 21,000 life. On our fourth skill, we're using Rend with Bloodbath, which gives us makes our Rend do 1100 weapon damage as physical over 5 seconds. Enemies killed while they're bleeding cause all enemies within 10 yards to begin bleeding for 1100 weapon damage as physical over 5 seconds also. On our passives, we're using Ruthless, which is 40% additional damage to enemies below 30% health. Berserker Rage, which is deal 25% increased damage while near maximum fury, which we try to stay at maximum all the time. Nerves of Steel, fatal damage instead reduces you to 15% life for 3 seconds. Afterwards, you take 95% reduced damage and are immune to all control impairing effects. And Boon of Bulkathos, which reduces the cooldown of Wrath of the Berserker by 30 seconds. Now, in our cube, we're using an Ambo's Pride, which, when we're attacking with Whirlwind, it applies Rend, and the total damage of Rend is dealt over 1 second, rather than being drawn out into 10 seconds or 15 seconds that our 6 set allows. We have a Band of Might, which after casting Furious Charge, Ground Stomp or Leap, we take 80% reduced damage for 8 seconds. We could pretty much keep this up all the time using Ground Stomp. And we're using an Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, which reduces the remaining cooldown of our skills by 1 second when we hit with a resource spending attack, which we are technically always doing with a with the Whirlwind build. Now, I also run 2 different sort of semi builds for the Whirlwind build, one of which includes the Bulkathos weapon set, which increases your movement speed by 45% or something like that for while you're using Whirlwind. And I also use a Nemesis Braces on that variation. It's just more of a bit of a speed farm build rather than a Greater Rift pushing build. When I'm using that build, it's just pure, gem farming or, just Paragon farming on 100 GRs solo and just, running them as quick as I possibly can. And then I also have a bit of a mixed build where I use the Slenderer and the Little Rogue weapon set, and I use Nems Braces to trigger elites off the pylons, just to try and speed up the rifts when I'm using that weapon set, and try to get more elites and more orbs and just push the rifts along a bit quicker. Doesn't always work, but sometimes it does, and it just depends on what I'm pushing with. Also use that build sometimes when I'm trying to help other people level up their gems. So I'll do a higher GR, like a 105 or 108 or something, to help them get their gems up. And I'll use the Slender and the Rogue with the Nems Braces just to get it done as quick as possible for them. On the left, like a lot of people on the leaderboards do, and that's because you can actually, instead of having to, hold shift down to force your character to move, you can actually just spin with a whirlwind all the time, and it works. And then you can just tap your normal click as you need. To trigger the ground stomp.
We're actually doing alright here. I'm gonna try and...
We got really lucky here at the end of the rift. We're really close to having the rift finished, and there's a power pylon sitting right there, so we sort of tried to push the rift as far as we could to make sure we were going to have the power pylon available to us to be able to help kill the boss, which we were only 95% or something to be able to trigger the power pylon and use it on the boss, which was really handy. Doesn't always work like that, but this run was just really nice to be able to get that to happen like that. And we had plenty of trash up the top here just to tick us over into the boss. If you have enjoyed this video, guys, make sure you do like the video, and if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to the channel. And if you do want to check out my live Twitch stream, I stream every Friday and Saturday nights Australian Central Time. Links are down below in the description. Thank you for watching, and happy gaming.